At dinner, my girlfriend, laughing, said to her friends, "He's sweet, but so below my level." They all laughed. I just smiled and said, "Then you'll enjoy life without me." I paid the bill and left. That same night, one of her friends texted me. I almost did not read the message. My phone was face down on the kitchen counter, still buzzing with group chat notifications that sounded like gnats. When I finally flipped it over, there was a number I did not recognize, and a simple line. "This is Kendra from dinner. I owe you an apology." That sentence sat there like a light in fog. I poured water, took a breath, and wrote back that she did not owe me anything. She said she did. She said what happened at that table was planned. She said Megan had wanted to test me, to see what kind of man I was, to make a story out of me if I failed. She said I should know there had been laughing long before I arrived. Before I tell you what came next, I should explain how I ended up at that table. I am 28, work IT support at a hospital, and I like my life quiet. The job is not glamorous, but I am good at it, and it keeps the lights on for people whose work is literally life and death. I rent a small place on the second floor of a building that smells like coffee in the morning and laundry in the afternoon. I cook on Sundays and pack meals for the week. I run, I hike, I read, and I put extra money toward student loans because I like the feeling of owing no one anything. Megan entered that simple routine like a flare. She is 27, funny in a way that plays well in rooms, and she has a talent for turning the smallest moment into content. We met at a mutual friend's birthday, and for the first few months I thought the flash was part of the charm. She called me steady. I called her bright. When it was just us, she was soft and curious. When there were people around, I noticed she performed. The jokes had a target. Sometimes the target was me. The first time she teased me for driving a Corolla, it slid off. The second time, it stung. The third time, I realized it was not a joke. It was an angle. But I told myself that if the good outweighed the bad, I could live with a few angles. The Friday of the dinner, she wanted me to meet her inner circle. She styled my shirt collar with neat fingers and said, "Please be charming, they can be a lot." I said I would be myself. She smiled like that was a fine compromise, and we headed out. The restaurant was the kind of place that lives on Instagram. Exposed brick, small plants, a neon sign in the corner that said, "Good vibes." I was the only guy at a table of 5. Megan sat beside me. Across from us was Alicia, the best friend who has an opinion about everything. Next to her was Kendra, who watched more than she talked. On the ends were Tara and Jules, both glossy, both distracted by their phones until the conversation warmed up. It started as introductions always start. "What do you do? Where do you live? What is your 5-year plan?" I answered honestly and kept my voice calm. I said I worked at the hospital, that I was studying nights to move toward cybersecurity, that I was proud of paying down debt without help. Alicia asked what I drove. I said a Corolla that starts every morning. There was laughter, the kind that asks you to laugh along. Megan tapped the stem of her wine glass and told them I still use an Android. Another round. I smiled and asked the server about the special, not because I cared, but because ignoring a joke takes the air out of it. The digs kept coming. Small. Constant. The way a leaky faucet keeps time even when you want silence. I noticed Kendra flinch once when Alicia's voice got sharp. I noticed Jules glance at me and then away. I noticed Megan watching the reactions more than she watched me. People who perform for rooms need rooms to clap. If the room goes quiet, they press harder. You already know the line that ended the night. She said I was sweet, but below her level. She said it like a conclusion, like she was reading a review of me that had been published earlier that day. The laughter that followed was soft and easy, which somehow made it worse. I did not try to win them over. I did not list my good qualities. I did not perform. I paid. I wished them a good night. And I left. Kendra's message cut through the echo of that scene. She said Megan had told them before I arrived that she wanted to see whether I would pick up the tab for everyone. If I did, I was a provider. If I did not, there would be a story. She said Alicia and Tara were in on it. She said she hated the plan, but did not say anything at the table. She said she was sorry for that. Then she told me something else. Megan had been seeing a guy from her gym. It was not serious, Megan had said. Just fun. Kendra had screenshots. She did not send them. She offered, and then she said she understood if I did not want to see them. I thanked her and said no. I had all the confirmation I needed. By morning, Megan texted, "I cannot believe you left like that." I told her I was simply respecting her level. She said I was being dramatic. I said no, I was being done. I blocked her number because I wanted peace more than a debate. Then I put on coffee and went for a long run. The city was quiet, and the morning felt like a clean page. You would think that is the end, but stories rarely end right away. They taper. In the taper, you learn who you are. The first week I kept expecting anger to wake me up at 3 a.m. It did not. What woke me up was relief. There is a deep calm that arrives when you decide to stop explaining yourself to people who do not listen. At work, my patience increased. I helped a nurse troubleshoot a broken tablet, and she hugged me in the hallway like I had replaced a limb. On my lunch break, I registered for the next certification exam. At night, I cooked and I ate and I read and I slept. Nothing dramatic, just a steady stack of small good things. 2 days after the dinner, Jules sent a short message that said what happened was wrong and that she was sorry she did not speak. No gossip and no bait, just kindness. The same day, a voicemail came from a man I did not know who said he was sorry for getting involved with Megan and that he had not realized we were serious. I deleted it without replaying it. My healing did not require his voice. On day 3, Megan tried again from another number. "You made me look bad," she wrote. I told her that her words had done that. She said we could fix it. I told her I did not want to. She fired one last shot, that I was overreacting to one sentence. I reminded her it was not one sentence. It was a pattern. Then I stopped answering. Kendra asked to meet for coffee. I agreed, but I chose a cafe near the hospital and told a friend where I would be. When she arrived, she looked lighter than she had at dinner. She apologized again, then showed me a handful of messages, not to hurt me, but to show me what the plan had looked like from the inside. There were screenshots from before I arrived. Alicia joked about level checks. Tara suggested a bottle of wine to loosen me up. Megan said she wanted a good story either way. Then there were messages from after I left. Alicia called my line dramatic. Tara called it cold, and Megan said I would come crawling back. Jules left the chat that night. Kendra muted it and decided, she told me, to move on from that circle for good when her new job started next month. We talked for a while about how friend groups can become habits. She said she had been friends with Megan since high school, and it had always been like this, but the volume had increased lately. The chase for better tables, cooler photos, bigger reactions. She said the dinner broke something in her that needed to break. Before we parted, she said something that stuck with me. Silence is a choice, but so is decency. I failed at one of those. I am going to practice the other. I told her I hoped the move would be everything she wanted. We went our separate ways without exchanging more than first names, and the faintest sense that not all strangers are strangers forever. The next month was clean. I passed my exam and my manager noticed. He started giving me projects that required trust instead of speed. I went hiking with a neighbor, and we talked about late bloomers and good boots. I replaced a cracked phone screen with another Android and smiled when the cashier asked if I wanted to upgrade. No thanks. I like what works. Then, because life has a sense of humor, I ran into Megan at the grocery store. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I was daydreaming about a stew. We met by the eggs. She asked if I was seeing anyone. I said no. She said she missed us. I looked at her and felt nothing sharp, just a distant kind of gratitude that I was not still auditioning for her approval. I told her I hoped she found what she was looking for. That was the end of that. I thought the story had fully tapered, but there was one more ripple. Jules wrote again. She said she had started therapy because she kept sitting at tables where meanness was called humor, and she wanted to know why. She said she was done with that language. She thanked me for leaving when I did, because it made her look at herself. I told her I was happy for her. The message felt like someone opening a window in a room I no longer lived in, fresh air for whoever needed it. There is a belief that revenge is required after betrayal, that you need to balance the scale with some grand gesture. I used to believe that too. But the longer I sat with this, the more I realized that some scales balance themselves if you stop touching them. All I did was pay a bill that was mine, tip well, because the server deserved better than the show at our table, and walk away. Time did the rest. The group splintered without any help from me. Megan's performative kindness had fewer places to perform. People who make entertainment out of cutting others eventually run out of audience or out of friends, sometimes both. A few weeks later, I started seeing someone new. We met on a trail because our city has a green belt that runs behind the hospital, and after work I like to walk there to untangle whatever tightens during a day of passwords and tickets. She had a book in her backpack and a small dog that trotted like every step was a mission. We talked about why people read true stories when fiction would hurt less. She said true stories make you feel less alone because someone else already survived a day you are scared of. When I mentioned that I had paid off another chunk of my loans, she grinned and said that was hot in the way that meant responsible, not showy. When I joked about my shoes, she looked at them and said they looked exactly like someone who knew where he was going. I did not need to shrink to fit her comfort. That felt like stepping into shoes that were already broken in. I am not telling you this to make a movie out of an ordinary hurt. I am telling you because there is a table somewhere with a version of you sitting at it, and someone at that table is scraping you down into a punchline for sport. You are waiting for the perfect line to win the room back. You do not need that line. You need the quiet decision to stand, pay your part, and leave with your dignity. You do not need to publish screenshots or construct an audience for your pain. You can let time carry the truth to where it needs to go. You can invest your energy in a life that is so full of small good things that there is no room for other people's small cruelties. On the anniversary of that dinner, I cooked for friends in my small apartment. Nothing fancy, just a pot of chili, a loaf of bread, some music that sits low in the background so talk can sit above it. At some point, someone asked how I knew that group of friends, and I realized there was no single answer. There was a neighbor from down the hall who had helped me jump my car last winter. There was a man from work who always brought cupcakes on birthdays. There was the new woman from the trail and her small, serious dog. There was Kendra, visiting the city for a week between projects, who had texted to say she was around and could we grab coffee, and I had said, come by if you want, the door will be open. People drifted in and out and nobody performed. When the bread ran out, someone went to get more. When the music paused, someone hit play. Nothing went viral and nothing needed to. Late that night, after the dishes were rinsed and the last candle was out, I sat on the couch with the quiet like a coat over my shoulders. I thought about the laugh at that restaurant and how loud it had felt. I thought about the silence that followed it and how generous it had been. It gave me my nights back. It gave me my mornings. It gave me a room where people spoke to be heard, not to win. It gave me a life that is not an argument. That is the best revenge I know. If you are in a season where you keep rehearsing a scene you wish had gone differently, here is what finally helped me. I stopped talking to people who were committed to misunderstanding me. I chose my own voice over the crowd. I did small kind things for myself and for neighbors because goodness is a muscle that grows with use. I told the truth to the people who asked and silence to the ones who did not. And when that old itch to prove my worth returned, I went for a walk until it quieted. There's a trail near my apartment that opens into a field, and in the evening the sky stretches wide over it. Every time I stand there, I remember that a level is not a status someone assigns you at a table. A level is the quality of your attention, the steadiness of your word, the way you care for what is yours. The woman from the trail still laughs at my shoes, but she does it like you tease someone you are proud of. Kendra sends photos of a new apartment with sunlight that looks like forgiveness. Jules finished her third therapy session and wrote that the room feels less heavy each time. The hospital server I tipped that night waved to me from another restaurant a few weeks later and said the best line she had heard all summer was the one I dropped as I left. I told her it was not a line, it was a door. Once you walk through it, the only people who follow are the ones who know how to knock. That is the story. No twist where Megan and I become friends, no climax where I post receipts and collect likes. Just a man choosing not to be a prop in someone else's show, and a life that rewarded that choice with quiet, which turned out to be the loudest happiness I have known.